All right. Well, what do we share this world with? Now, what does that question mean? I've probably said this before. We seem to share this world with some vast intelligence. Philip K. Dick makes reference to this in his valence idea. Also, Jacques Vallée refers to this intelligence. So what is this thing? I don't know. There's something that coexists with us, and it's all around us. So the topic that I chose to talk about this time is something from my childhood. Oh, when though? Probably maybe early middle school. And it's something that, according to the great source Wikipedia, it goes back to like 1855. And probably definitely before, but that's the first, I guess, official recording of this mystery. They call it the devil's footprints, although I've also heard it as the devil's tracks or devil hooves, or anyway. Suffice it to say, you wake up one morning and you find a lot of tracks. They look like a small horse prints. I mean, I grew up on a farm, so I know what cow prints look like, and horse hooves, and deer tracks and things like that. So this was kind of horseshoe in shape, about the length of your hand and maybe the width of your hand. Kind of trying to measure it right now, maybe a little shorter. No, it was fairly significant. And let's see, the weather at the time, this was probably maybe late spring, and the soil was not dry. It probably had rained within a week, I guess. Anyway, the point is that you could see the tracks. Even in grass, it would make an indentation into the ground. So it was fairly large and was heavy. So it would sink down, and like there were some areas on the farm. It was like a big garden, so you're not going to have grass there. So anyway, you could see the indentation in the soil. It probably went down, what is that, about an inch or so into the ground. So if we get metric, we could say about 2.54 centimeters. Anyway, the paranormal aspect to this is, first of all, even though I grew up in the countryside there, we don't typically have larger animals, stomping all over the front yard or the backyard and such. So, you don't usually go out and see large creatures near the house, the impressions that they make in the soil. In the forest, yes, you can see those things, and maybe on the edge of your property, blah, 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 or the edge of a tree line or something, but generally larger animals don't tend to wander free like that. But that's not the strange part. The strange part is when you come outside in the morning and you just come across them and you're thinking, oh, what's this? And you know that it's not a deer. It's a large track. It can't be a horse because they're kind of single file, if you know what I mean, bipedal. So that's the first weird thing, is like, because you're looking for the matching set of hoof prints. You're like, okay, then where are the other prints that should be there? So that led me to looking at the way that they were facing. Basically, I could follow the tracks forward with the animal or whatever it is, or I can retrace the footsteps back to where it came from. So it seemed to be coming from the house area. So I retraced the steps, and it went back. But this is the weird part. It went back past a cement well, and the cement well is kind of next to the house. So the tracks went between the cement well and the house, and then went right up to the house and stopped. And that is your first feeling of like, how the heck did it jump off the roof? So I thought naturally that, okay, it came from around the side of the house somehow, but I don't know how it could like not make a footprint. So I went to the side of the house and looked for, the continuing tracks. Could not find any. And I continued on to the other side. See, I was in the backyard, so now I'm going to the front yard. And I'm just curious, like, did it come from over the hill? Where did this thing come from? So I'm looking, and I'm kind of giving up because I can't find any tracks. But by the time I get to the front yard, there's no tracks on the side of the house in that little yard. So now I'm in the front of the house, and suddenly I see the tracks again. Except they're coming, oh boy, how far? Anyway, they're coming from like the little, it wasn't a dirt road or a gravel road. It was a paved road, but it wasn't like a modern paved road. It was just an old country road. Anyway, it was coming from down over the hill where that road is, but it came up onto our property, and it went right to the front of our house and stopped. So let me paint that picture again. These tracks are in the front yard, and they come to one corner of the house and stop. And then I go back to the back of the house where I first saw the prints, and here they are coming out of the other side of the house, and it's a direct line. So if you have, if you have a square, then this thing, it didn't cut the house in half, but maybe by a fourth or something like that. Anyway, I'll try to include a graphic. Anyway, that is the weird part. Animals don't tend to do that. Horses or whatever they are, they don't tend to do that. They don't. And of course, yes, there are no marks. At least not. I didn't go on the roof to look, but I didn't see any muddy hoof prints or anything like that going up the side of the house. I've heard of that kind of a thing, but no, it just seemed to go in one side of the house and just ignored the existence of our house. But yet, at the same time, it's still making footprints. That's the bizarre thing to me, is that you have some entity that can interact with our world, and it has mass. It's making indentations into the ground, but it's not like walking around and looking in windows or anything. It just seems to be walking and wandering. Yeah, so I wonder, does it pay us any heed at all? Does it even acknowledge our existence? And yet it interacts with our soil. Anyway, I followed the tracks forward, up through and past some trees and up to the garden that I mentioned briefly before. We had kind of a wide, long, lengthways and widthways, kind of a large garden. And I followed it into that, through that, and then it went to a tree line and it went into the forest. And I didn't follow it. I didn't know what it was. And I wasn't spooked or anything. I just thought, what the heck can this thing be? Like, the tracks themselves away from the house didn't bother me. I didn't feel like it was there. Whatever this thing is gone. But the thing that did spook me was that it stops at one point of the house and just continues with the other. I showed my father, and then I don't know, he just kind of brushed it off as some fathers will do. So, we take our cues from our elders, and I thought, okay, it's nothing. And I had, at that age, I had never heard of anything strange like that. I may have been maybe about 12, possibly maybe a year younger. I could have been a year or two older. But I think that if I were older than 12, I think it would have registered differently with me, for reasons that shall be explained in another video. But yeah, so maybe I was around 10, 11, or 12, like maybe the summer or spring of being 12. Anywho, a few years later, I see in one of these like strange paranormal UFO, those kind of like Bigfoot paperback books that they had back then. I saw one tiny story about the devil's footprints or something. I may have seen it in a school library book or something. Anyway, the thing is, as soon as I saw that, I was like, I had a similar experience. So yeah, I remember telling a couple of friends of mine about it. They thought it was neat, but they didn't seem to care. As kids do, we just let stuff slip from our minds. So what was this thing? I don't know. But I'm just putting it out there for anybody who's curious. Are devil's footprints still occurring? Yeah, from time to time. And I'll just put my little pin in the map of where one of the sightings occurred. Right there in outside of Parkersburg, West Virginia. Now, how does that connect with the cosmology? It's, well, pretty clear. In West Sylvania, of course, there are, just like in our world, there are realms existing all around us, and it's a mysterious thing. Anyway, I think I've talked your ear off enough. Thank you so much for listening, and please stay safe and healthy, and thank you for sharing a little bit of your day with us.